It is? Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. Places, did you see? Okay. Just reopened a week ago.
Mr. Cupkey, how are you today?
Are you guys signing for the public hearing we're doing before the council meeting?
Who are you?
I'm a grant.
Who?
Yeah.
Last night.
After I pay him on the table.
No good we just go. And I know I can do something like that.
That's why I asked if you were down there. I'm just gonna give that to you.
See how this works.
Right.
Someone really needs to fix this. It's gonna get ripped off of here, just broken soon if we keep. It will too. It's getting hot on. Great coffee press machine.
Sir?
Well, thank you.
That's true. Now we can't even get it. Especially when we're filling ourselves. Yeah, exactly. We're doing a public hearing. You're gonna record the long writing for the memorial.
Right. That's here.
Or on the tweet after.
I think we have some.
It's his friend. What? Thank you very much. Memorial meeting for not 100% sure. I gotta change that top line. Phil, I'd like to keep some money with you.
Oh, wow. Sunday afternoon, stay with our son, fly out Monday, be in Savannah for basic, pretty close to 2 weeks.
Do you know some general ordinance there is for the public hearing? So I can reference that.
There is no resolution. No. There will be down the road. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is great.
Yeah, this is just the first public hearing. You know, I think this is going to speak. And I might. And so. Yep.
Good evening. It is Monday, April 7th, 2025. I'm Mayor Chris Martin calling to order the public hearing for the Memorial Home Grant. I'm sorry? Oh, we're starting with this.
Report with Andy Mouse or Baker Tilly. It's required by the state each year. They do TIF management.
Gotcha. So the public hearing will involve. There's no, we'll do that one first. TIF management report. Andy?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and good evening, council members. Appreciate you letting us do this virtually. A busy time of year with these April 15th reports. I've got Heidi Benitez on with me as well. Heidi will go through some of the data in the report. We'll try to be brief here this evening, but certainly glad to answer any questions. So this is a report that's been around for a number of years. We prepared this report for the Redevelopment Commission each spring, and it is really a look back report. So this, for this report here this evening, this will be for all Redevelopment Commission activity from January through December of 2024. And this is one of the few public requirements of redevelopment commissions throughout the year. So by each April 15th, redevelopment commissions do have to report on prior year activity, and then a new requirement that was put into place last year is that this information has to be presented at a public city council meeting as well. And we do also assist with the new spending plan, which was a requirement put into place last year, that controls redevelopment commission spending in the following year. So last December, the redevelopment commission adopted a spending plan for 2025 spending. And then we do typically do a report in the fall. I believe we did that in September of last year. That's a more forward-looking report. So it looks at the budget, long-term plan, and impact of the TIF areas. So again, this report again looks at 2024 activity, but a number of requirements throughout the year that address redevelopment commission plans for the future as well. If you want to flip to the next one, Maggie. This really, graph on this page really just represents kind of the life cycle of the TIF area. It has a number of different TIF areas that are all at different points. Lexington Village, for example, is a much newer TIF area. Would fall kind of on the left side of this chart, where the base has been established. We're starting to see some growth, but that growth is fairly minimal. But the TIF area still has the majority of its life remaining. The downtown airport industrial park TIF areas are more to the right side of this graph, where they've been outstanding for a number of years, are collecting quite a bit of assessed value, which results in significant TIF collections, and then those areas will expire here within the next decade. So I will explain as we go through some of the expiration dates. And what's important to know is as TIF areas grow, when they do hit their expiration dates, that assessed value is returned back to the tax base at that point. And many of those will occur kind of throughout the 2030s for Logansport.
Andy,
do you want to flip the next one, Hank? Sure.
Andy, can I ask, just for the sake of the towns, I don't know if they're all aware of exactly how that works with the base assessed value and all that when these TIFs were created. Can you kind of just give them the 60-second explanation for what the base assessed value means, and then how it works from there as the TIF grows?
Sure, absolutely. So anytime a TIF area is established, then a TIF area is a geographic area. Whenever a TIF area is established, the value of any property within those geographic boundaries in that base year is set. And so if you think of your downtown TIF area, obviously you've got quite a bit of existing development within the downtown. If you have an area with $10 million of assessed value, when that TIF area is set up, that $10 million becomes part of what's known as the base. The TIF areas then can only capture any growth above that $10 million in that example. So if you think of your downtown as you've had older buildings that have been renovated, maybe you've had parking lots that have been redeveloped, things like that, that creates new growth within the downtown TIF area. And then that new growth is what you see as the incremental assessed value is what's captured. But the TIF area will never capture until new value is created above that base.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then TIF can be used for a number of different things. There's actually been kind of a loosening of those uses here in recent years, gives you more flexibility for public safety, for quality of life type improvements. But traditionally, TIF is used for either incentives or infrastructure. And I think looking back at what Logansport's traditionally used TIF for, it has been primarily in the incentives and infrastructure categories. You think of kind of the redevelopment of the East End Mall, and direct incentives of developers to incentivize that redevelopment of the mall. And then places like Lexington Village, where you've put in the infrastructure, gotten parcels really shovel ready for new development, and put in that public infrastructure. So again, a good mix of infrastructure and incentive investments over the past few years. And then with that, I think Heidi, if you want to kind of run through the information, and this is all information that we prepare for the report, and then we also will upload this into the Department of Local Government Finance's Gateway page to be submitted by the city here by the deadline next week.
Thanks, Andy. The first piece of information that we report on are the redevelopment commission members, as we have listed here. And we also noted one of the members that was removed in 2024. The RDC does have one employee, Dwayne, who serves as the third-party secretary. And the RDC does pay salary expenses from the discretionary fund. So those are non-tip dollars. There's about $100,000 in this fund. Going into the RDC's allocation areas, they have the consolidated allocation area, the consolidated EDG, which has the original East End area, Highway 35 Gateway Commerce, and 2014 expanded consolidated. So that East End area is set to expire in 2038. The Gateway Commerce area is set to expire in 37, and that 2014 expanded consolidated is set to expire in 2039. And apart from that consolidated EDG, we have the allocation area separate from that. So the Airport Industrial Park and the downtown area are both set to expire in 2031, and the Junction, Soleil, and Lexington Village allocation areas are all expected to expire in 2047. Going into finances, the consolidated EUG brought in a total of about $900,000 and spent around that same amount. The Airport Industrial Park brought in about $370,000 and spent about $500,000. The downtown area brought in $450,000 and spent almost $300,000. And then Junction brought in $61,000 and spent about half that amount. Soleil brought in $115,000 and spent $40,000. And Lexington Village brought in $21,000 and spent $287,000. And that spend down was really due to just bond proceeds being spent on project-related expenses. And then going into the second section here, we have to categorize the expenses. So the first being professional services, about $200,000, capital outlays, which includes a lot of different projects, about $1.5 million, machinery and equipment, about $100,000, which includes kind of the money spent on the different schools and their equipment for their school career centers, and about $65,000 spent on land and $176,000 spent on principal and interest. Further going into finances, about $11,000 was spent on the exterior improvement facade program. And going back to what I spoke about earlier about these schools, and that money is just being spent to buy equipment for their career centers. Going into fund balances, the RDC has the TIP allocation funds, so we have our consolidated fund with about $1.2 million, the industrial park with about $1.5 million, the downtown area has about $800,000. Junction, $38,000, Soleil, $86,000, and then going to Lexington Village, they have their allocation fund at about $692, and then they have different funds for their bond. So that bond interest fund, that money is being used to make the next couple bond payments, and then they also have about $20,000 in the construction fund, about $228,000 in their debt service reserve fund, and about $98,000 in the discretionary fund. And then for debt payments, the Soleil and Junction bonds are paid from a pledge of 75% of their TIP. So the city is not responsible for any shortfalls, and really only the TIP that's being collected in these areas are being paid towards the bonds. And those bonds are maturing in 2042. And for Lexington Village, the city is responsible for any shortfalls, but the RDC does have money set aside to make those payments. So the last payments that were made were to capitalize interest, and as homes are being built, we do expect them to be collecting TIF and generating money in that area, which brings into this. So there's 3 houses that have already been completed in Lexington Village. And we did include a note about the Lexington Village expenditures, which includes using the bond proceeds for infrastructure work and to pay capitalized interest for debt service.
So that definitely answer your questions, and then as I mentioned, we will work with the redevelopment commission and the city to get this information and put it into Gateway and then submit it by the deadline next week.
Anyone have any questions for these guys? The one I was a little curious on, and maybe you don't know this offhand, but I was curious as to what our expenditures were for, like the hotel, on the one where you showed the expenses for the hotel. What expenses would we have paid in 2024? Do you know that? Shows.
So that's just on the bond payment. So if you remember how you mentioned both the Junction Mall and then the Salai, the hotel type areas, 75% of what the redevelopment commission brings in on those type areas then goes back to debt service. So those were developer purchase bonds where the developer took the risk of repayment. So you're just seeing the TIF come in, and then approximately 75% would go back to the bonds. I think the reason, if you look at Solai, for example, there's 115,000 coming in and only 44,000 going out. I believe that's just kind of a timing issue. So you receive your December distribution, which is included in the revenue side, and that bond payment isn't made until January of this year.
So the
revenues are.
So the expenditures are what we send back to them.
Correct. They essentially pay their property taxes and they receive a portion of the increment back through those bond payments.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right. Next is the public hearing for the grant for the memorial home. Tim, did you want to start us on? Or Dave?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of introduce. We have Tim Carson here. He's with the regional planning. I don't know the exact acronym. I work on it, but I haven't got it down yet. And then we've got Malcolm Gerald back here. He's been working side by side basically with Tim to kind of coordinate trying to put a grant application together here. And I just want to, when you look at the memorial home, if you drive by it, you don't think anything's happening. But these two guys have been going 24/7 on this grant application. I appreciate all the hard work that they're doing. With that, I just say if you, I'll mention the survey, Tim, just for the sake of saying if you have not filled out the survey, I encourage you to do it. As of a few days ago, we had 218 surveys completed.
They keep coming in.
Yeah, so at that point, I would just mention 85% of those were very favorable. So with that, I'll kind of let Tim come up and Malcolm, if he wants to help just kind of explain the work that you've been doing and how we go about applying for the SOPR grant.
I'm going to sit here so I can address everybody all at the same time. So, my name is Tim Carson. I'm here from the North Central Indiana Regional Planning Council. There's all the words that Dave was missing. What we are is we're like a regional planning organization that we're a nonprofit. We work for municipal agencies in, let's see if I can get them all, Fulton, Miami, Cass, Clinton, Tipton, and Howard counties. So we provide grant writing services free of charge to any municipal or nonprofit agency that exists in any of those counties. So City of Logansport approached us to help with finding some funding for the Memorial Center So what we're doing is we're helping them currently apply for a historical preservation grant from OCRA. So some talking points I got to get through. There's certain points they want to make sure I hit and read out loud. So we'll go through that and then we'll open the floor for questions or additional clarification from that. So the Public Facilities Grant Program is a grant program administered by the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs, or OCRA. It is funded with federal community development block grants, or CDBG dollars. These grants support a variety of projects that either benefit low to moderate income persons or eliminate slum or blight in communities. In order to be eligible for the Community Development Block Grant Program, we need a lead applicant that is a unit of government, which can be a city, county, or incorporated town. In this case, the city of Logansport is going to be serving as the lead applicant. The project must meet one of the national objectives and be an eligible activity under the CDBG program. Those options include benefit to low and moderate income persons on an area basis, or on a limited clientele basis, or on presumed class, or a spot, slum, and blight clearance or update project. All must comply with applicable state and federal laws and regulations. The eligible national objective for this specific program is spot, slum, and blight. Total amount of CDBG funds available. The maximum award for the historical renovation of a public facilities project is $750,000. In this case, the city of Logansport is seeking the full $750,000. A local match of at least 10% of the total project cost is required. A minimum of 5% must be in the form of cash or debt. Additional in-kind contributions can be counted as local match up to 5% of the total project cost for the maximum of $25,000. The community development housing needs of the applicant, which is the city of Logansport, include public facilities projects, specifically the historical renovation of the exterior of the Logansport Cass County Memorial Center building. Proposed amount of funds that will be used to benefit low and moderate income persons. Based on the current HUD utilized data, which is 2016 to 2020 ACS 5-year data, Logansport's LMI population is 54.1%, therefore approximately 405,750 of those grant dollars will be spent on LMI individuals. The amount and source of local funds to be expended for this project currently is estimated that $161,000 will be used in non-CDBG funds. At this time, those non-CDBG funds are planning to be derived from the Logansport Memorial Home Fund. There will be no displacement of any individual or businesses related to this project. The potential grantee must also respond to any written comments that are received during the public hearing process. At a minimum, the grantee must indicate that comments will be considered and provide an explanation and or feedback of how those comments can be resolved. Malcolm, did we get any written comments submitted?
I have.
Get to them in a second.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so important dates regarding this grant. The proposal due date is April 17th this year. We'll have a second public hearing, which will lock in our budget. Still waiting on the exact scope of work to be finalized. After that, the application will be submitted on June 20th of this year, and the award is expected to be announced between August and September of this year. That is so. Does anyone have any questions about the grant writing that I can try and answer to you in as much plain English as possible? Because grants are all about the legalese if you've never had that work before. No?
Okay.
Right now, hand it off to you.
Before he gets started, I guess I'll just give a couple more tidbits. You come on up, Malcolm, but he gave you the legalese of what we're applying for here. But look, to just give you an idea of what we're hoping to accomplish, if we can acquire these funds, we all know what the Memorial Home stands for. I think anyone that's in the room knows that the Memorial Center was built back in the 1920s to commemorate World War I veterans, and for many, many years, that's what it did, and then it just fell into kind of disrepair and neglect. And, with that, there's a need for a lot of repairs. And like Tim touched on, most of those repairs are for exterior type work in order to be eligible for this grant application. And basically, we're just looking to get a real good jump start on a project that's long overdue. And like I said, 85% of the people to this point that have filled out the survey have given very favorable support for this project. So I think it's something our community wants. And like I said, I'll let Malcolm go from there because he has been working tirelessly with Tim and several different contractors and engineers to try and put this proposal together for us. So thank you for what you've done, Malcolm.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Malcolm Jarrell. I live at 735 Walnut Ridge West here in Logansport. I'm actually speaking today as a member of the Friends of Logansport Cass County Memorial Center. It's a community organization, primarily Facebook group. We have about 400 members now. It is organized with a leadership team that meets regularly, discusses the home, and shares that information with the group. There will a number of members I know are writing letters of support for this project separately, addressing them to the mayor's office, Chris, and so they should be accumulating there in your inbox.
Got a folder.
I probably have spent more time in the Memorial Center than anyone over the past few months, and I feel that this project perfectly fits with the Community Development Block Grant Public Facilities Program that Tim described. By helping the community preserve something that will benefit everyone for years to come. There are really three things that the Friends of the Memorial Center would like to see in terms of the ultimate use of this place. One of the best things about fixing it up, one of the most fun things, is to have a place where everyone can go for recreation, especially families who might not be able to afford gym memberships. There's a nice downstairs gym space in the Memorial Center that could be used for fitness classes and indoor activities. It could be run by our Parks Department, which really needs indoor space for some of their programs. We want to make sure everyone in Logansport can enjoy these activities no matter what their income. And just as importantly, the renovated Memorial Center, we hope will once again serve as a true community gathering space. Many of you might remember attending events there, weddings, receptions, kind of celebrations of all types. So many Logansport families have special memories tied to events that were held in this building, and many of those, I think, will be described in some of the letters that are being sent in. By restoring the Memorial Center, we can bring back that special place where our community marks important milestones and creates new memories together. And it just would be great to have an affordable, beautiful, historic venue right in the heart of the city where families can gather for generations to come. Perhaps most important of all, the Memorial Center has always been a place that honors our veterans, and we want to keep that tradition alive as well by making a place where veterans groups can meet, where veterans can help get support, and where we can all get together to honor their service. And there's plenty of room in the Memorial Center for all of these activities to take place. In round numbers, it's going to cost about $3 million to fix the building up. The exterior work, which is the subject of this grant tonight, is about a third of that. The city has already shown support for the project by paying for a new roof, testing for environmental issues, doing more research on the building's history, and checking what needs to be fixed. And the Friends of the Memorial Center fully support the city in providing matching funds for the Community Development Block Grant. We have strong supports also from organizations including Indiana Landmarks, the Logansport Historic Preservation Commission, the Cass County Community Foundation, and Friends of the Memorial Center. I want to highlight that many people have put in countless hours of planning work over many, many years. Community members, historic building experts, City officials have spent a lot of time creating plans, researching history, building support. But despite all this work, we haven't been able to make much progress on actually fixing the building because we need funding. The Memorial Center project has been popular with voters through many local elections. It's been a ballot topic, with most candidates of all parties agreeing that it's important for our community to preserve this treasure. I volunteered at the Memorial Center many times over the last 5 years, and I've seen with my own eyes that the building is getting worse. There's wood rotting in many places. Windows are missing and falling apart. The bricks crumbling. Water has been getting inside the building. Substantial damage occurred prior to the roof being replaced last year. But there's also water infiltration from broken windows now that needs immediate restoration. The gutters and downspouts are failing and creating trouble in its foundation and brick walls. So the experts that have been looking into it have taken note, that there are some foundational issues that need to be addressed as well. Recently, when I was up on the 3rd floor, I saw there were both living and dead birds inside. It's beginning to be a health hazard. The paint on the outside of the building contains lead, according to recent testing, and if we don't fix this, that lead paint will be peeling off and contaminating the lawn around the building. But despite all these problems, we still have time to save this beautiful, historic, and important building, and we fully support bringing it back to life as a community center and place that supports Cass County veterans. Now's the time to take the action if we want to save that building. The longer we wait, the worse it will get and the more it will cost to fix. This grant application is our chance to get the money we need to stop just talking and start doing. So we can preserve this important piece of Logansport and Cass County's history for our children, for our grandchildren. With a CDBG grant, we can finally turn years of community support and planning into real progress on a building that will serve everyone in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Malcolm.
Thanks, Melvin.
Any other public comments? All right, come to the microphone, state your name and address for us, please.
Paul Wilhelm, 630 South 15th Street, Logansport. I'm here today in my capacity with Logansport Landmarks. As you may know, several years ago, we placed the memorial home on our annual most endangered list. And we're very encouraged by the fact that it is finally in the city's hands, largely in control of the city's hands, that the key issue, the roof, was addressed this year. We recognize that there's a long way to go with this structure, and we recognize that it's going to be a very involved process with preparing bid specifications that are accurate, that we can get accurate bids on, and that we won't have some of the problems that we had with the downtown Orca project, where the bid specifications were not defined enough to get back good numbers, and it wound up costing a lot more money than originally planned. So we support the idea that this grant will be a bit of a game changer for the memorial home, and we are hopeful to be able to remove the memorial home from our list in the next year. If the exterior renovations get done to the thing as planned, we were really divided this year because based on the roof, it's technically dry, but it's also getting water intrusion from other places. So we're going to leave it on the list for one more year, but I think the overall prevailing opinion is that it's moving in the right direction, and particularly with this grant application, it's going to allow key things to be done to the building that it's desperately needed for as long as I've been in this town, for 10 years now. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mercedes Brew. Memorial Center should be saved because it is Logansport's only civic center
It was dedicated as a war memorial and civic center in 1922 and has honored the dead and served the living up until the 1960s. The center appears to have been the first of only a few such World War I memorials authorized by the Indiana General Assembly. These memorials, unlike parks, plaques, or statues, were specifically required to be, quote, for the purpose of perpetuating and keeping those principles alive for which the war was fought, unquote. Memorial Center has been used for public purposes of all kinds. The third floor housed, quote, meeting quarters, unquote, for American Legion Post 60 and other civic organizations. Many banquets, class reunions, and performances occurred in the ballroom, while events such as blood drives, Purdue Extension classes, and patriotic displays made use of the other first floor rooms. In the basement, under the bathroom, is another large hall used for dances and athletic activities, including the popular teen canteen. Since the 1960s, the building has deteriorated. The furnace and water are shut off. It has masonry, insect and water damage, and mold. Deterioration of the outside walls immediately threatens further water damage. Fortunately, the city of Logansport recently became the owner of the center, and the city council is committed to saving it. Last year, the city council paid for a new roof, buying a little time. More funding is needed now to save it.
Any other public comments? Please come to the microphone.
Good afternoon. My name is Jim Brew. I live with my beautiful wife Mercedes at the same address she just gave. And I speak in support of Okra, the city making this application to Okra. I think it fits within the mission statement of Okra to work with Indiana communities to build relevant and economically thriving places where people want to live, work, and grow. I think that's what we usually call quality of life. And Memorial Home is part of the quality of life of this community over many years. The history is like Dave Morris, Councilman, was saying, people all have memories, and it's a project that the community wants, and it's, as he says, about time. Malcolm's description of the condition of the building, not just because he's an engineer. I've seen him in there looking around, and he knows what he's talking about. And from an old working-class Logansport kid's background, that building can only have lasted because it's so well built. But it is a human structure, and it will fall down if we don't do anything. And so I take the legal angle, since that's what I've been doing for quite a few years. And the building is dedicated to our soldiers. In World War I, that was the Great War, they called it. And Logansport's sense of patriotism is embodied in that building even today. I don't believe in ghosts, but if they could speak, they would tell you about how overwhelming the support was to create that building in the first place. It was a bond issue, $35,000, I believe, back then. That's probably $280 now, something like that. There was not a single remonstrance in opposition. There's talk about Logansport history, quality of life. The people in this town lined the streets to go to the dedication, and they had the big bank meeting ahead of time over here. at the old Elks. The main event of the night was a Whistler, if you can imagine that. Anyway, it's got a cool, long history, and it's well worth preserving. And a personal note, I'm part of all the other people who love that building. But it costs a lot of money, like you're talking about, and I think that we are deserving, and I think you're a stellar applicant, aren't we? So, I sat on your council seats 47 years ago, and believe it or not, and so in 1978, and I represented the part of the city that, my point here is not personal, it's to show the beauty of the building. So it was within the part of the city that I represented as a council person, and it was owned by the county, and they were talking about tearing it down. It was in the newspaper, and I went to county commissioner meeting and addressed them, and gave them the common sense that you all would have given them about keeping it, the history and the love, and you could still rent it for weddings and parties and so on. Believe it or not, after 1 year, nothing happened. So then they talked about it, tearing it down again. I mean, it was in the newspaper. So I used an organizing strategy that you've probably all learned someday when you were a kid. It's called the embarrassment strategy. So I went to the beautiful two churches, pastors, in Krager Funeral Home, in the Justice Law Office, the institutional members at that corner, and beautiful Charlotte Schultz, who lives in that brick house between the Justice Law Office and the old post office. And they all signed this petition. Of course, Robert Justice Sr., if anybody knew him, he made me change a few words. Of course I did. I wanted their signatures. And so they all signed it. I went back to the county commissioners there a year later, and they stopped their tear it down talk, and actually it began some positive conversations with good city people like Susan Midland and others. Actually put together a committee to help Beatree, people that are long gone. No, Susan's not gone. And so anyway, it's always been on the edge of something that's going to happen because people want it to happen, to be preserved. And you guys are making that because you're the city. I became a lawyer in '83, so I did file a lawsuit and sued both the county and the city, and it was a good strategy because in '86, I got an agreed judgment signed by Judge Proney that said that building is a memorial, it must be preserved, and I got the city to agree to do a joint city-county war memorial, which sounded like a good idea, but in the end, it's the city. That's as close as you get to good humor. So anyway, the city is the entity in our local scheme of things who has the gumption and the wherewithal to actually pay attention. And above all, we have to show respect for our veterans. In our modern day culture, some people do not display the proper respect for the foundational requirement that you have in Army and soldiers, and it comes right back to the beautiful history of Logansport being extremely patriotic. I mean, we rocked in the 20s, and it's good to remember your history, and it's the same quality of life because we got the same quality people.
Any other public comments? Come to the microphone for us.
My name's Bill Bauman. I live at 610 Green Hills Drive. I work at Krieger Crane Funeral Home. I've been there about 23 years. I've been staring out those front windows at the memorial home. In the early days of my time at the funeral home, there was always a Saturday wedding and a Saturday funeral at the same time. And many times I stood at the front door and thought, isn't it amazing that the most amazing day of someone's life and the worst day of someone's life was just separated by Market Street. And over the time, the building got worse and worse and worse, and it was sad, and people would stand at the front door and say, "What's going on across the street?" I'd say, "I really don't know what's going to happen, but I hope something does happen," because it's hard to watch. 60, 70 hours a week, working in the yard, working in my office. It's a beautiful building, and it's a really important part of downtown. And especially with all the other progress that's happening in downtown, especially on that block, I think it's really important. I think it's really important, not just because I work across the street, but because I've heard people stand there when they were burying their wife or their husband or their daughter or son and say, "Remember when so-and-so got married over there?" And they were going back to that time. And it was a scary moment for me to think, if that wasn't there, how many weddings and baby showers and things like that would all just be erased. And maybe it's just a brick building with a roof on it, but those are important memories to this town and important memories to me. And one of the most shared and most viewed Facebook posts we've ever had was last year when you were putting a roof on. I was just taking a picture, just funsies. Oh, look, I put a new roof on. I think we had like 30,000 views of that post. People were so excited. And they're like, "What's next? What's next? What's next?" And I was like, "Well, pump the brakes. We're getting some progress. So just, be happy with what we have." So I know it's hard to drive by and it's hard to, pull out of the city building and look at that building. But imagine sitting across the street from it 70 hours a week and thinking, what's going to happen? And it's a really important part of downtown. And I hope this goes through. And I really appreciate everybody's work on this because this is really important.
Thanks, Bill.
James Kahn, 913 Plum Street, Logansport, Indiana. Lifelong resident here, Logansport. The Memorial Home, I can remember back in high school, we had dances there. My mother had a bridal salon. I can't count the number of weddings, receptions that we did in that place. There was a lot of memories that went with it. I can remember that we even had, I believe it was the Big Brothers, had an office right there on the second floor of that building. I can remember the inside of that building. And then, as time goes on, as I learned, the city and the county could not agree on anything when it came to the memorial home. Dave, I'd like to thank you. Every time I go by, I can't believe it, but I see you over there at the memorial home. So I know you've got an interest in it, and I appreciate that. And as time goes on, Kelly, remember we had JC's, we had the tent, we had the Iron Horse Festival, and as that went on, as you know, we lost the tent, and we had the Iron Horse, and we lost the Iron Horse. And my own personal opinion is the only reason we lost all this was because of the people had personality conflicts and they had ego problems. It had nothing to do with the objective of saving the memorial home. It was just a head-on, headstrong people. All I'm asking is I'm glad to see that the city is in on this, and thank you back here for jumping on and actually carrying the flag. I'd like to see Memorial Home get rejuvenated and bring it back as Logansport, Indiana's one of the community projects that we can be proud of. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Nicole Dolittle. Most of you guys know me. I'm Corporal Humberto Sanchez's mother. Almost 4 years ago, we see the town coming together, no matter of religion, sex, political views, and whatever. We see our county, our city, and even from all over the different states that I can recall coming to the homecoming of my kid. the memorial home for me, as many of our friends or memorial home and citizens express, they have many memories. I have some memories in there, but my point tonight is we have a beautiful building that we can bring back, but what is the future of the memorial home? My kid died really, really young. He was 21, and I was hoping and waiting for him to come home at his 23, because he was going to be 23, and enjoy the city, enjoy he was going to come and live in this town. And as many of you guys know, we have a really alarming number when it comes to suicide for our veterans. And unfortunately, it's the young ones that they just come back from deployments, that they see so many things, and they don't have the support that they need. When my son got killed, we created the ambits, post 826 21 on his memory. And just to, my idea was like, we really need something for our young generation. Unfortunately, we don't have a place that we can call home for our ambits post. And this will be something that we can use to bring our young veterans to try to prevent and help them to go back to the civilian life after they leave. I was doing a little research, how many kids just in our Logansport high school enlist every year. And you're not gonna believe how many kids, and I thought after my kid died, they was gonna go lower, and I actually see those numbers like raised a little bit, because they see that they really, this town really respect and appreciate our veterans. I would love to see this building up and running, and our group of ambits and my family especially are compromised to do a good use of the building and help our community, help our veterans, help our own kids, and just give them a place where they can find the camaraderie that they leave when they receive their DD-214. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just want to mention, since Coral was up here speaking, that we've had several different events or cleanups or whatever at the memorial home. And her group has been more than generous with their time and efforts, and it's really appreciated by the council. And, and we really are considering some aspect of that home being a place for them in the future. So thank them for what they've said.
In fact, in the survey, for any of you that haven't taken it, one of the questions we included in there was to try and find out what you think as residents we should use the memorial home for. So we are going to use some of that feedback for some eventual long-term decisions on how we utilize the building.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Jason Tremblay. I live at 2131 Jefferson Street. I am the state president for the AMVET Riders. I'm also an officer here at Post 82621. And we do a number of things for this community. And one of the aspects of having this downtown location would allow us to advertise better, to be able to bring in people. Because right now, we meet at the Isaac Walton League. As many of you know, we don't have a post of our own. So we host our meetings at the Isaac Walton League, and then we plan events at locations as we can get them. To be able to have an office right downtown, right here, and be able to host events, I mean, the place is huge. I foresee Christmas parties, I foresee barbecues, I foresee us being able to bring in the public and educate them on the things that we do. We are a veteran service organization, but we don't just help veterans. We're here for the entire community of Logansport. we host a lot of things that aren't even veteran-related, like our Halloween party at the park and everything, where we provide costumes for the kids and set up, the trail and everything to be scary and, things like that, but it's hard for us to educate everybody because nobody knows who we are, To be able to have a place right downtown, it would greatly help us grow, and as we grow, we're able to help the community even better. So, and I, as a veteran that served with 10th Mountain Division in Somalia in '93, I can't think of a better place that I'd rather be. Thank you.
Jason?
Any other public comments? Any comments from council? Go ahead, Tim.
I just want to urge you, I think the other priority that we haven't touched on so much with OCRA from a grant writing perspective is one of the things that they focus on is community support. Not all grant funding is equal. Some funds look at your bottom line and what funds you have available, and they just look to see if it's a fiscally responsible decision for them to give money to your town to work on something. OCRA is not that. They are based on what is good for the community, what the community wants. So I urge you, if you know anyone else that would be passionate about the memorial home, that's not taken the survey, that's not written a letter, that's not given us some kind of comment and support, please do so, because this is one funding agency that really will listen to what the public wants and really will put a lot more effort behind what you have told them you'd like to see happen with your town.
You can continue to submit those letters, by the way. Mayor's office at cityoflogansport.org. We do seriously have a folder of letters already, so we are putting them back.
19th, they're going to submit the application the next day. So I'm probably going to be emailing the clerk's office the night of the 19th and saying, hey, last call for letters. So please get them on over.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. It is 6:08 p.m. We will call the close of the public hearing.
Out by the 4-H. It's across from like 4-H fairgrounds.
Oh, all right. Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir. All right, you're welcome.
Couple minutes. Let everybody get situated. Oh my gosh. That's what most of the people were here for, huh? Exactly.
What time is our meeting on Thursday? The finance committee meeting?
5:30. Just a couple minutes, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Is anybody else going to do that? I know. I know you're gonna be gone. Chris, Cameron?
You said it was the 17th, right?
It's Monday the 14th.
14th, yeah. Week from today. Oh.
I'll look at this and get back with you.
I was just gonna try to maybe do like what we did, especially if I'm the only one doing it, kind of do what we did last year, as I talked to Travis and see if I could just set up tour there.
We're there, yeah.
These are about the Multicultural Festival.
Pardon?
These are about the Multicultural Festival. It's an invitation.
On the 3rd?
Yeah.
Oh, from Yoslin?
Yeah.
Yeah, he sent me quite a while ago. I've got it on my calendar.
We talked to like the immigration committee about it.
He just get all around.
Susie.
They actually have.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I give one of these to Chris, because he. I've already.
Yeah. Dear Haley.
I'll give you mine since I'm here, you know.
Well, Chris knows about it.
Huh?
He knows it. He also.
No, Howard.
Oh, I
He
see.
didn't give one. He's emailed me about this event already. So you've got the information.
Susie, this is about the Multicultural Festival. This isn't about Good Government Day, but if you look at that email and let me know, I'm gonna email like the people and try to get something set up so that.
Have anybody going with you?
I don't think so. Scott, are you gonna do Good Government Day?
Don't know yet.
Good evening. It is Monday, April 7th, 2025. I'm Mayor Chris Martin calling to order the regular session of the Logansport Common Council. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of
For the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
BJ Cox,
Present.
Chris Howard,
Present.
Cameron Austin,
Present.
Haley Zinsmaster,
Present.
Scott Petey,
Present.
Susie Wamsley,
President?
Dave Morris.
We'll start with the approval of minutes for the March 3rd, 2025 meeting. We have a motion to approve.
Second.
Call for question.
BJ Cox,
Yes.
Chris Howard,
Yes.
Cameron Austin, Haley Zinsmaster,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Susie Wamsley,
Yes.
Dave Morris.
Yes.
Next is the approval of minutes for the March 10th, 2025 meeting.
Motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for question.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Susie Wamsley,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Haley Zinsmaster,
Yes.
Cameron Austin,
Yes.
Chris Howard,
Yes.
BJ Cox.
Yes.
Reports from committees, boards, and commissions.
Finance Committee met on March the 24th. Topics of discussion were the community crossing grant funding, vehicle purchases, and fire engine funding. Those are all on tonight's agenda. And then there were some other discussions. One was on language matters, farmers market property taxes, sidewalk replacement for in front of the swimming pool building on 21st Street. And those have all been handled.
Any other reports from committees, boards, and commissions?
Planning and Economic Development meeting was on the 24th. We discussed Ames Park on the banks, Chase and Davis Streets, and the Dunwoody Park donation, and golf course annexation, and most of those are on the agenda tonight.
Mr. Mayor, the Public Safety had a meeting on March 24th. We discussed the purchase of a new engine for the south side, which is also on the agenda for tonight.
Any other reports from committees, boards, and commissions? Seeing none, on to old business, ordinance 2025-09, Councilman Morris.
Ordinance 2025-09, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, amending ordinance 2024-09 pertaining to economic development efforts concerning the City of Logansport and the Cass Logansport Economic Development Organization. Mr. Mayor, I ask for a vote on ordinance 2025-09.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for question. Dave Morris.
Yes.
Scott Petey.
Yes.
Chris Howard.
Yes.
Susie Walmsley.
Yes.
Cameron Austin.
Yes.
BJ Cox.
Yes.
Haley Zensmaster.
Yes.
Ordinance 2025-09 passes on its second reading. On to new business, Resolution 2025-114. Councilman Cox.
Resolution 2025-114, resolution of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, certifying an addition of the Julian Ridlin Aim High Sports Complex to the Logansport Comprehensive Plan. Mr. Mayor, I ask for a vote on Resolution 2025-114.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for question. Susie Walmsley.
Yes.
Haley Zensmaster.
Yes.
Cameron Austin.
Yes.
BJ Cox.
Yes.
Chris Howard.
Yes.
Scott Petey.
Yes.
Dave Morris. Resolution 2025-114 passes. Resolution 2025-115, Councilman Petey.
Resolution 2025-115, resolution of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, certifying an amendment on the banks of the Eel River to the Logansport Comprehensive Plan. Mr. Mayor, I ask for a vote on Resolution 2025-115, please.
Second. Any further discussion? Call for question. Scott Petey.
Yes.
Susie Walmsley.
Yes.
BJ Cox.
Yes.
Chris Howard.
Yes.
Dave Morris.
Yes.
Haley Zensmaster.
Yes.
Cameron Austin. Resolution 2025-115 passes. Ordinance 2025-12, Councilman Austin.
Ordinance 2025-12, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, rezoning property located between 6th and 10th Street, north of Race Street, to the Eel River. Mr. Mayor, ask for a vote on ordinance 2025-12.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for question. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
This is the rezoning where the people that still want to live there, I'm sure, Aaron, they can do what they want to do, but they cannot rebuild their houses or something? They cannot add on?
So this is right beside, just west of the event center area where there's 5 homes that are there that we're rezoning basically to our central business district. They can remodel or maintain their house. They cannot add on to their house. And then if something were catastrophically to happen, they would not be able to rebuild. But if only 75% of the value is disrupted, they can rebuild. So there is a kind of percentage for them on that. So if it's 100%, they wouldn't be able to rebuild without going through a process, but if it's at 75%, they'd still be able to, so.
Do these people know that?
They were notified about the public hearing. I did have a couple that came in, and I was able to explain that to them.
Personally, I think all of them should know what really is going to happen if we say yes to this.
So they were informed about the public hearing, and they were invited to the public hearing, specifically to their address and to the individuals that live there.
Did the notice also give all of this information, or did they have to go to the public hearing to get the information?
The information on it is saying that they're getting rezoned and to contact our office for questions regarding that. And it does state from residential to central business district.
Is this, you say this is just for that one block, or is it?
Yeah, it's just for that. There's, I think, one of the houses we own currently, and I think there's 4 other ones. It's just for those 4.
And you say you already spoke to 2 of them about it?
I spoke to one couple that came in.
Okay.
Yep.
Could we possibly have you send them the ones that you did not hear from, another letter between the first and second readings, just to say, hey, this passed on first reading. If you have any concerns, would you please contact us or whatever?
Yeah, that's not a problem.
You could also tell them about the council meeting for the second reading.
Yeah.
If they could appear for that. I mean, if they wanted to, then they could come.
Yeah.
That gives them another opportunity.
Yep. But just so that you all know, they do get that notice for that first public hearing, so.
You have proof that they received it? Is that
Yes, they're
correct?
certified.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Call for question.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Cameron Austin,
Yes.
Susie Wamsley,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
BJ Cox,
No.
Chris Howard,
Yes.
Haley Zensmaster.
Yes.
Ordinance 2025-12 passes on its first reading. Resolution 2025-116, Councilwoman Zinsmaster.
Resolution 2025-116, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, amending the Logansport Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map located between 6th and 10th Street, north of Race Street to the Eel River. And I would ask for a vote on Resolution 2025-116.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for question.
Haley Zensmaster,
Yes.
BJ Cox,
Yes.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Chris Howard,
Yes.
Susie Wamsley,
Yes.
Cameron Austin.
Yes.
Resolution 2025-116 passes. Ordinance 2025-13, Councilman Howard.
Ordinance 2025-13, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, annexing territory to the City of Logansport, placing the same within the corporate boundaries thereof, and making the same a part of the City of Logansport, Northwest Eberts Road, super voluntary annexation. This is first reading on ordinance 2025-13. I ask for a vote, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for question.
Just for, well, I was just going to say for the public, this is an annexation of 10 acres of land that was purchased for a driving range at the golf course. And it'll basically just be a driving range out there that's being annexed in once it's approved.
Further note, if it is approved on first reading, in the first reading on April 9th, there'll be a publication for a public hearing right before your next council meeting at 6:30. So before your second reading, we have to have a public hearing.
But it still takes 2 years, or another year.
If approved, it'll be,
January of 27.
January 27,
Yeah.
due to changing fire districts.
That need to be 5:30 since council's at
You
6.
said 6:30.
That's a good sign. You guys changed it on me. In a good way. I like it earlier. Yes, I'll get that changed.
Time are you putting that in for, Bill?
5:50 would be a good,
Okay,
just get it right prior to,
because I'd made arrangements with Aaron, and we're going to have the group from Rose Holman, is that correct, Aaron? That they have been doing as a college project a plan for Chase and Davis, and they wanted to come in and present that at the next council meeting, so they were going to come in next council meeting, May 3rd at 5:30 to present. So we can put you in between the two there and
the best time.
Yeah.
So what, 5:50?
Yeah, that'll be all right. If it's not quite that, as long as it's not before that, I mean, we'll be fine, yeah.
Haley Zensmaster,
Yes.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Cameron Austin,
Yes.
Susie Wamsley,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
BJ Cox,
Yes.
Chris Howard.
Yes.
Ordinance 2025-13 passes on its first reading. Resolution 2025-117, Councilwoman Wamsley.
Resolution 2025-117, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, certifying the addition of Chase and Davis to the Logansport Comprehensive Plan. I move for a vote on Resolution 2025-117.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for question.
Chris Howard,
Yes.
Haley Zensmaster,
Yes.
BJ Cox,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Dave Morris, Cameron Austin,
Yes.
Susie Wamsley.
Yes.
Resolution 2025-117 passes. Ordinance 2025-14, Councilman Morris.
2025-14, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, rezoning property located at the southwest corner of Chase and Davis Logansport, Indiana. I move this forward for a vote, Mayor.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Just for the public on this one, this was low-density residential, the southwest corner, correct, Aaron? Except for one little spot there.
Yes, so,
Can you get the map there, Tyler? There you go.
yeah, so it was professional residential, which is similar to what is along Chase already on just that northwest section, and the rest of it is low-density residential, which is our lowest density that we have currently in our zoning districts.
Okay, I want people to be aware of what that was. Thank you.
Question?
Cameron Austin,
Yes.
Susie Walmsley,
Yes.
Haley Zinsmaster,
Yes.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
BJ Cox,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Chris Howard.
Yes.
Ordinance 2025-14 passes on its first reading.
I just wanted to say one other thing about that, just because I know it was concerned when we had the public hearings. The PR district, professional residential, does allow for some services and professional offices and residential. But if we did go with an apartment complex, it would have to go through the Board of Zoning Appeals, so there would be a public hearing about it. I just know that that kind of seemed to be the most concerning when we were talking at our public hearing. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you, Aaron.
Resolution 2025-118, Councilman Howard.
Resolution 2025-118, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, amending the Logansport Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map, FLUM, located on the southwest corner of Chase and Davis. I ask for a vote, Mr. Mayor, on Resolution 2025-118.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for question?
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Susie Walmsley,
Yes.
Cameron Austin,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Haley Zinsmaster,
Yes.
BJ Cox,
Yes.
Chris Howard.
Yes.
Resolution 2025-118 passes. Resolution 2025-119, Councilwoman Zinsmaster.
Resolution 2025-119, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, approving the transfer of land owned by the Parks and Recreation Department and deemed surplus in 2021, aka Dunwoody Park, to the City of Logansport and its Redevelopment Commission. I would ask for a vote on Resolution 2025-119.
Second.
You can.
Could we, before you come up, could I have, Bill, you want to come up and kind of explain what we're looking at here first with the Dunwoody Park? And then then I would like, if it's okay with the council, to let all the public comments on this. I know it's of a concern to it.
The agenda wasn't totally complete, so it was, take the land and give it to, it just says 4, and it's supposed to be 4 peak community services. It'll there.
For development of housing for peak community services. If you read the actual resolution, the words are there, but the agenda is incomplete.
Tyler was scrambling this morning. We tried to fix some mistakes, and the next thing you know, he didn't have anything. So he was kind of in a disarray there for a while, probably because I was in there bothering him, but.
You ready?
Yep.
All right. Maybe a little history before we get to comments, so everybody knows how we got here. My office has been working with others at the city level on trying to partner with Peak Community Service. They have a need to develop more duplexes. We were looking at different properties throughout Logansport that the city owns, and Dunwoody Park, which back in 2021 was deemed to reduce our park inventory and decommission Dunwoody Park. With that, we came back to the Parks Department last month, and they passed a resolution taking that surplus property, agreeing to give it back to the city of Logansport for the purpose of providing housing for peak community services. Just a little quick history on the lands. We know what we have, what we're talking about. In totality, there are 13 lots down there. There's a crooked picture. 7 of which are north on this property, which are along the river. If you look at all 7 of those were acquired by the city of Logansport in 1913. So it's been in the city inventory for a long time. 4 of those lots, the ones that are highlighted, which are 26, 27, 30, and 32, do have, they were gifted by Melinda and Benjamin Louthen. Again, the highlighted 4 lots were gifted by the Louthens, and they do have a restrictive deed covenant that the city of Logansport is to forever keep and maintain the same for the purpose of a park, and name it Louthen Playground. To my knowledge, there was a period of time it was called Louthen Playground, then it converted to Dunwoody Park. But those are those 4 lots. The other 3 were acquired on the same day by 2 different landowners, the Stewarts and the Chases, and those have no restricted covenant against those properties. The other 6 to the south of that, there's they're not highlighted, but there's 6 lots. They're called lots 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Those were gifted to the city of Logansport from Little Turtle Waterway in 2005. And those have no restrictions, no covenants, no must be a park. In fact, if you've been down there, they've not been anything. It's wooded area, those 6 lots. So those are the 13 lots that we're talking about. The resolution you have in front of you are to transfer the 9 lots, which are all of them except the 4 that are highlighted, to Peak Community Services. Real quick on Peak Community, they have over 200 employees in Logansport. They've been with us and around here for a long time. They have many clients. If this is transferred and developed, the plan is to build 1 group home that has for 6 people, 1 duplex for 8 people, for a total of 14 people. On the back end, this would employ 13 more people at peak for a guesstimated salary range of $467,000. So they do contribute economically, impacting Logansport. So I've seen some things online about 13 duplexes because there's 13 lots. That's inaccurate because there's only, well, for one, there's only 9 lots. And their plans are to build the 1 group home and the 1 duplex. They're potentially down the road, could be if the wooded area would get developed, 2 additional duplexes that would max out 3 duplexes in 1 group home. So that's kind of where we're at. Just try to give a little background before we.
So total people right now, this plan, and you said the wooded area could hold more people. How many total right there?
From their standpoint, it would be 30 in totality because you have 6 of the group home and each duplex would have 8. So initially, the only plans are for 14. But if the max did come down the road, that would be an additional 16 people because it's 2 more duplexes. So 30 in totality. As far as traffic, I think any development down there, this is the best case to not have traffic because a lot of these, well, the clients don't drive. There would be a potential, there would be a 15-passenger van that would need to go in and take the clients to different destinations, doctors, groceries, things like that. But from this traffic standpoint, this would be in my opinion, the least cumbersome traffic piece than building 7 houses down there. Because you could have unlimited cars at that point.
No change to the traffic in that area, correct? with this plan?
Other than they would have 15-passenger van that would get the clients.
No additional roads or anything, just 18th Street?
That would be a Pete question from the city level, no.
Okay.
No. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Any public comments that you wanted to make? Or a couple?
My name's Robert Arnold. I live at 81 18th Street. I'm not sure how all those are plotted out like that, but already that street is very congested. There's cars parked on both sides. People do not have garages. Most of them don't, so they're parked on the street, so it effectively reduces it down to one lane where you either have to move off to the side so that car's on through, but it's already a congestion. And then Mile Street, Mile Street's even worse. It is truly only a one-lane road with an S-curve right in the middle through an alley. So I see it as a congestion problem regardless of what you put in. And those other houses on the right, the south side, is that going to be regular, is that going to be part of Peak, or is that going to be additional housing, duplexes, or how is that? Because if it's going to be regular housing available, then that's going to add that much more to the congestion.
No, that's not what he explained. He explained
Okay, well, I didn't understand.
Are you talking 9 through 14 there?
This is right here. Yeah.
I do.
See, those are the ones Bill was talking about where down the road they might build 2 additional duplexes there.
Regular housing for people, or is this for people?
No, this would also be for Peak.
Okay. I just know that this is Miles Street, this extends on down and becomes the
Yeah.
S-curve going out to 17.
Mhm.
Okay. That's very, trees, you have to really be careful making that S-curve if you're gonna take Miles Street, because it's just, you gotta go slow. That's all I'm gonna
Yeah.
say. And then if you're, need a vehicle there, you have to decide who's gonna back up, who's gonna go forward. And, out here on, 18th Street, I'm on 81 18th Street. I'm not sure how these numbers work out.
Well, this is Miles.
Right.
So you're down in here somewhere, or this?
Okay. What is this little, oops, sorry.
That looks like it was probably a platted alley, maybe.
Okay, because I know that some of the maps I've seen confuse the alley that goes right beside us, calls it Miles Street, and it's actually an alley.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if this is an alley, if this is my place, or my place is down here. I'm not sure.
I think you're on the right.
Are you on the?
that?
I think you're on the right side, because Miles, you're south of Miles Street.
This is a lot of lots here. It looks like to me,
Oh.
more than are actually there.
Well, a homeowner might own 2 of those lots together, is what.
My biggest concern I'm coming up with here is the congestion. I mean, I know it was downplayed, and but when you do have those 16 passenger buses come through, you're going to have congestion at various times of the day.
Yeah.
So that just, and has anybody actually driven down here to observe what it looks like in this street on various times of the day?
I've been down there a few times, but I mean, I'm not going to say I've studied the traffic. I just went down there and looked around, took some pictures of the area, and
Was this the first reading for this?
this is only a 1 reading resolution. Yeah.
Okay, but my biggest concern is the congestion. As, I've lived at 81 18th Street, my wife and I, for over 40 years. And we've seen things really build up in congestion. It's just, and to add this on would seem to be problematic to me. I just want to express my concerns. Let's see here. And I just learned about this meeting today. Maybe it's my fault. Not keeping myself as informed, so this is a very impromptu presentation. So
You did fine.
So, yeah, I can't think of anything else, but most people don't have garages, so they're parked on the street. So you effectively have 1 lane on 18th Street here.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Stephanie Bender. I'm at number 1 18th Street. So I'm right here. This is a little misleading to me. I understand that that is an actual road. Miles Street doesn't actually, it's not a road you can drive there. The people who live here use that as their driveway. Congestion, yes, is a real thing. We've lived there since we bought the house in 2018. I have 2 teenage drivers, and I've had to purchase a side mirror for my daughter's car 3 times now because she's not been able to get over enough out of the way on her way to school in the mornings, and has been hit by a car coming through. There's a gentleman down here who has a semi that he parks here. My neighbors directly next door to us, we have driveways. So my husband and I park in the driveway, the kids are on street parking. My concern is, just like Mr. Arnold said, was the congestion. And I literally have one way to get to my house. I can't take another route unless you're gonna build me a bridge to get across the river. So there is a lot of concern for us because of that. And I understand the Peak community, they do have transport. Do they not have people that visit them that would need to use parking, or is there going to be off-street parking for them?
Well, I wouldn't assume that if they were to build on the lots that are indicated there, what is that, 28 and 29 and down at the end, they have to have some kind, they're gonna have to put an access road in for people to go on into there. They're not, you know what I'm saying, they'd have to have access to their homes.
Another thing to bring up is that is a very popular fishing spot. I have people block my driveway constantly in the summertime for fishermen being down there as well. So it's already a problem for us. What could we do then to, I mean, do we block our driveway? Do we put signs up saying, you know, don't block my driveway? A little bit of a loss of how we're going to work around it is my.
So is there parking along the street from where, in front of your homes on both sides right now?
In front of my home, we can fit 2 cars there and 2 cars there, and that's it. And because the people next to us, they of course have visitors. They have one spot in front of their house between their driveway and mine, and then they take the across the street parking as well. And then there's a third home there on the corner of Miles and 18th Street that they just park wherever nobody else is already parked.
And where did you say a semi was parked?
It'll park right there.
Daily?
Not daily. How often would you guys say the semis park out
They
there?
park there on weekends, between there and in front of their place on up the street, but he parks at 2 different places.
Yes.
And typically on weekends, if he parks.
Maybe a law enforcement question is to parking and semi-parking on residential streets. I can look into that for you.
I mean, we've seen, since we've moved in there, I thought, well, this is great, you know, this is a very good park, there's not hardly anybody there. But the amount of people that actually do use that park, it really does surprise me. You've got kids over there practicing soccer, baseball, football, kids flying kites. I mean, it really is a lot busier than I ever expected it to be. But during the winter, obviously, it's not. But I have seen people get a lot of use out of it. So, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment?
Paul Wilhelm, 630 South 15th Street. I just want to raise some concerns about this, particularly given that we now have a situation where we have deeded land with protective covenants on it. First of all, the city is going to be turning over what is potentially highly valuable land in the future for development, and currently, right now, apparently seems to be serving some needs for the community as sort of a neighborhood pocket park. The purpose of zoning is to, this type of zoning that we have there, is to allow for slight density increases in neighborhoods. You have primarily single-family homes, and for the last 100 years, we've had like duplexes on corners here and there. There may be 2 or 3 bedroom homes. In our area, we have Peaks building in our area. They're building 4-bedroom side duplexes. The problem that you really have, particularly because this is a one-way in, one-way out situation, is you have a very congested, narrow street. Now, it's not just a question of Peaks buses coming in. There are counselors that come in. There are going to be coaches that come in that do various things with them. You're going to have family come and visit them. I want to point out that these people that Peter talked about bringing in, they've talked about this at a couple different meetings I've been at, will not be from Logansport. They're going to be taking people from other communities and bringing them to Logansport for this type of housing. It's going to be an expansion of what they currently do. They still want to build 3 more buildings in our neighborhood. The whole idea of group homes, and I don't know if you know anyone who has autism or is developmentally challenged, but the whole goal of this type of development with group homes is to get these people into an actual community where they can interact with the public, where they can have new challenges. It keeps them engaged in what they do. And this type of development really looks more like a managed care facility to me. We're going to have a group of people who are going to be way over here, who are going to be developmentally challenged. They're going to be totally out of context with the neighborhood. They're not going to be really engaged in the neighborhood. So my question is this really the best use for this site at this time? I'm all for peak operating group homes in our community. But I don't believe the ghettoization, if you will, putting large numbers of these types of properties together makes good sense. They should be integrated into a community where they have an opportunity to engage with the public. That's the only way they're going to grow as people. I'm also concerned because of the proximity to the river. Many of these people have developmental challenges. Peak has a problem with staffing levels. They're often short-staffed. Their staffing people are underpaid. I don't know if you know this or not, but Indiana is dead last in the average salary paid to these types of caregivers. It's between $16 and $18 an hour. That's what some people pay their babysitters to babysit their kids. If you look at, for example, the Indeed site and other employment sites, those people have talked about the lack of training they receive from Peak. They also say it's a toxic work environment and there are problems with management. Peak's not exactly been a good neighbor to our community. Where their offices are down off of Erie Avenue, they recently tried to stop a local restaurateur from gaining more parking for her community-based business. They've just not been a good neighbor to the community. And if I look at the properties that were built down the street from me, when they started construction, they sat in the rain for weeks. Then they put the roof structure on, and it rained again, and they sat for weeks. They put the roof on, then they had to take the roof off one of the buildings because they put the wrong roof on, and they had to change the color back. This is the same contractor that would be doing the work here. And I'm concerned about the lack of oversight and the lack of planning with this project that they've exhibited in our neighborhood. And I don't wish this on any other neighborhood. Right now, Peak's bus is parked on 15th Street. It's been sitting there for a week. We don't allow buses to be parked on city streets. And I've been by the properties that they have. There are serious ADA issues there. You have nothing but steps going up the front. There's no ramps at the front of the building. When these clients walk out of the 2 front buildings that face Wright Street, they go to the sidewalk, and it's a pretty steep drop-off to Wright Street at that point. There's no railing or fencing around there. They've basically built the bare minimum they can build to collect money from the federal government. And I just don't think this is the kind of development for this site that makes sense. And I'd like to see the city council table this for a later time, try to gain more information on it, get more input from the neighbors that live there, and see if we can't come up with a better solution. You know, Peak approached Lexington Village, as did Habitat for Humanity, about building over there, and it was a flat no, because they wouldn't be providing tax income to pay down the tip. So if something is not good enough for Lexington Village, it's okay for these residents to have to deal with it. I think we need to go back to the drawing table on this, and we need to figure out what's going to be the best use for this site long-term, particularly with what's going on down at Riverside Park and the old power plant site and all the development that we have down there. Is it immediate that we should take this land and turn it over to Peak, or should we wait and see if better opportunities and better propositions come along down the road? We have to start thinking long-term in this city. We can't just take the first thing that says, oh, we want to do this, without taking a deep dive into what it is and how it's going to impact the community. Because for our community, at least, it's not been a win-win. These people are isolated up a hill. They're not engaged in the community. There's only a few people living there now. Eventually, there'll be 5 buildings. But It's not what we would have expected. It's not what we would have wanted in the neighborhood. We wanted them to be integrated into the community. I met with Peak along with other residents. We sat down, we showed them drawings for small-scale housing that could be carefully integrated into the neighborhood. They weren't interested. Turns out Crestline looked at those plans I gave them, and that's why the Revere homes happened. That's the basic plans that I gave Peak. Crestline took them and ran with them and built a very successful Revere Homes project out of it. So I just think the council needs to maybe take a step back, not rush this, do a little more research, see if there's other opportunities out there to find other sites and locations. We have a lot of property in this town. I don't believe that clustering group homes in one area is really the best outcome for the clients. Thank you.
Paul?
My name's Linda Brown. I live at 72 17th Street. I actually live in the old Dunwoody home. I've lived there since 2022, and I was really concerned when I read about this proposition. Number one, it is really, really congested already on 18th Street. And no, I don't live on 18th Street, but I live one block over. I don't drive down 18th Street because, as stated before, you can't get down it very easily. It is basically a one-lane road. The second, well, actually I have several concerns, but one of the other concerns, as stated previously, is what is really the best use for our land? And this, you know, we want it is a really nice neighborhood green space. And I get that the Parks Department listed it as surplus, and I get that we're here now. But long-term, what is going to be the best use for it? My concern with Peak, again, I know that they are an employer in the community. I have no issues with building housing for disabled individuals. I'm a social worker. I work with people who are disabled, who need housing like Peak provides, okay? My concern, what happens in the future if Peak is no longer in business? What happens to that property? Who is going to buy it? Right? The other concern is Peak is normally shorthanded. They have trouble maintaining staff and safety ratios with their clients. I actually had a guardian of a client that lives and resides in a current Peak home reach out to me and ask. She does not live in this state. She is trying to get her relative moved to closer to her, or her, it's not a relative, but the person that she's a guardian for closer to her. She actually reached out to me and asked if I would read a letter of her concerns to you guys tonight. I don't know if that's okay for me to do so, but I have it with me. And I'm just going to summarize because it's kind of a long letter. So she said, to whom it may concern, I'm a legal guardian of a client who has lived in one of Peak's supervised group homes for 3 years. Her direct line staff is the only reason I have continued to remain at Peak while on other wait lists. When I read about Peak's desires to build any form of multi-unit homes to add multiple clients, I was alarmed. My concerns come to mind for many reasons, and they were all before thinking, so I think she kind of wrote this in a hurry, but one of her concerns is being close to the river, the location, ADA accessibility, traffic, as we mentioned, emergency vehicles, etc. Peak already has, in her opinion, Peak already has too many clients to care for in the way they need to be cared for. Clients can't get the treatment or therapy they need or in any timely fashion. My girl had property stolen from her on 2 separate occasions. Internally investigated, that didn't go anywhere. She was also drugged with a sedative without her guardian's consent to be taken to a doctor's exam. And not informed ahead of time that this was going to happen. She turned that over to the Indiana Department of Health, and they investigated, and Peak received 5 state violations. Peak never apologized to her or ever came forward with something they could do differently. She's just concerned that building so many group homes and some, that the people that they are supposed to help would not actually be helped because they would be expanding faster than what they can accommodate, if that makes sense. The other thing I think we need to think about too, and again, this goes back to the traffic situation. You're going to have people who work there. They have to drive to work. They have to have somewhere to park. So that's other people going up and down the street. Emergency vehicles. There's a Peak group home on High Street, not too far. There is always an ambulance in front of it. Not saying anything bad. You have to call an ambulance sometimes. But how hard is it going to be for an ambulance to get down 18th Street where it's already hard for them to do that right now? So I guess those are some of my concerns that we have going on. I agree that maybe we just need to take a step back and look and see what something we could do different with this property. There are other sites in town if Peak wants to build other homes in the future, type of thing. The other concern I have is Peak's funding. Peak has government funding. That is who funds group homes. And we all know the state, right? We all know that there is a lack, a shortcoming of fundings that are like funds that are going to be cut. So what happens when those funds are cut? What happens to the people that Peak is supposed to be caring for in that situation? So those are my concerns. Thank you for letting me speak and take the time to read the letter. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I've learned a lot, Council. I don't know if you have or not. I've learned a lot from this, so I would honestly make a request for you guys to table this for now.
I'm going to ask that we table it. This is a neighborhood I played in as a kid, so I know how congested it was back when I was a kid.
I would like to, I would certainly.
So I understand where they're coming from. Adding any type of traffic down there can be an issue.
I would like to at least give Chris the chance to speak if he'd like to, before we make any decision, but.
Good evening, Chris Neighbors. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Peak Community Services. I've listened to the concerns tonight, and some of them are valid, but there's also some rhetoric. So I would like to go on record and set those things straight. Listening to hearsay information, not factual, is not really giving the council the good advice to make a good decision. So we've been looking, first of all, the group home that we're trying to replace is the one on High Street. High Street group home needs to be replaced. We have earmarked that for replacement. And I've been looking for a piece of property now for over 6 years here in Logansport, and have not been successful at all. This is the first piece of property that we've come across. I've personally met with Councilman Morris, the mayor, deputy mayor, and said, hey, we need some help. We need to replace this group home. We cannot find anything. There's a better solution. I would love to hear it, but I don't see one. As far as the infrastructure is concerned, Bill had already mentioned we're going to be the best solution. We're looking at building a group home and one duplex initially. If we get in there and we just, and obviously it's a bigger problem, we're not going to continue just to put stuff in there and overpopulate the thing and make it non-feasible. That would not be smart, would not be a good business decision. Going into there, you're talking, you have a van or a bus, whatever you want to call it, it's a small one, that sits there all day. The bus that the speaker here said sits down there on the street, that was incorrect. Yes, it sits there all day, because here's the routine. The routine is staff take the bus or van, drive them to the main headquarters, drop them off for day service activity, they take it back and they park it. Unlike the rest of the residents there, we're going to have all of our parking on site. So when we build this, we're not going to use street parking. We don't plan to use street parking.
Driveways.
What's that?
No driveways?
Correct. So we will have our own driveways, drive onto the property, and the only time that we'll be passing any other vehicles is on the street. But it is a one-lane road, it's supposed to be two, but there's traffic issues there, and I think that's something that we probably would need to address with the local police department, see how we address that. I don't have a solution to that tonight. But our solution tonight is that we're going to be parking on the property, not on street parking. So we're not going to bring additional vehicles in there to park on the street. As far as funding stream, let's talk about that for a minute. There's a misconception. So what if Social Security gets whacked because the federal government? We don't know the answer to that tonight. We cannot determine what the federal government and what the Trump administration is going to do. We have no idea. However, let's say something did happen. Let's explain how Medicaid works in the state of Indiana. Indiana's Medicaid, right now, if we spend $1, the federal government gives us $3. It's called FMAP. They give us a match. 1/3 the state of Indiana pays for, the other 2/3 the federal government picks up. Regardless of what happens to that, they said Medicaid's not going away. The problem with Medicaid is the medical side, the HIP side, which our legislators here in the state of Indiana are in session right now trying to figure out how to deal with this. They have Senate Bill, I think it's Senate Bill 002, if you're familiar with that, but I think that we're going to have a good resolution to that. So I don't particularly worry about a problem as far as funding. Funding has to still come at the cut rates, the worst scenario. We're already in a situation where we would be able to embrace that. No different than the rest of the state or the city of Logansport. What if they cut Medicare? Well, they didn't do that. They actually gave a COLA increase. So I would see that we would probably be in good shape. I don't see that coming. But even if it did, we're a private not-for-profit. We've been in this county for 70 years. 70 years. If God forbid something happened to us, and let's say that we fell in hard times, which if you looked at our P&L, if you looked at our information, our debt-to-income ratio is almost zero. We have strategic debt. That's all we have. We do not have any debt because we need to. We have it purposeful to get a better use out of the dollar. So if that did happen, when we buy these houses, we're probably going to end up paying cash for them. If we take a loan out, we'll take a small loan out because is a strategic way of doing things. Who pays for that duplex? The people that are renting it. I know Logansport has many renters here. They rent. They pay the landlord. These clients become our landlord, or we're the landlord. They become their tenants. So they pay us. That's going to pay for the rent. As far as staffing, let me set the record straight. First of all, I know exactly what the speaker was before me who gave testimony. And I do know that guardian. I know who she's talking about. Because a lot of that information that I'm not going to get into because it's privileged information, but I will just say this, it was not accurate. And I'll leave it at that. Okay? I'm telling you, and it's not hearsay because I dealt with it. I dealt with these issues, I've seen the things, and what was said, they weren't substantiated. Okay? As far as taking care of our clients and staffing, I'm proud to report tonight that Peak Community Services has one of the best staffing in the IDD field. There's 430 providers in the state of Indiana, and there's probably 70 of us that belong to NARF, which is an association that I'm a board member of, that we make sure that we are following the rules And we're one of the better providers in the state of Indiana. And I'm telling you that we have the best staffing fill rate. Right now, we do not have a staffing crisis, and we have not had a staffing crisis in over a year. Now, when we talk about staffing crisis, what she was talking about, that was statewide. And actually not statewide, that was countrywide. And that had a lot to do with the rates of what they reimbursed. And our average salaries right now for a DSP, direct support professional, is north of $17.50 an hour. I just did a survey last week. It's actually $17.53. That is the average weighted salary of a direct support professional. We have some that make $18, $19. That's entry level. It is what it is. It doesn't matter if you pay your babysitter that or not. That's a moot point. It is what the salary is for the state of Indiana. And we as a private not-for-profit, we base up our salary upon what we're reimbursed. And so that's what we're dealing with this evening. I don't see this as a problem. I see this as a solution. I think if we could figure out how to eliminate some of the congestion down there, that would be a great thing to do. One of the things that we are going to do is the alleyway there, or we are going to contribute to the infrastructure there so we can get in and out of there. We're not going to cause a problem. We're actually going to clean some things up down there to get in and out of there. As far as the safety, I'm glad folks are concerned about our clients. However, and let's set the record straight here, because they have a disability, that doesn't mean they don't have a right to do what me and you do. Who are we to tell them how they live their lives? They live in a home, and they have the same rights to the community that we have. So what do? There is a rule, actually, it's called Home Community Based Service Setting Rule, which is a federal rule, HCBS, that mandates that we get our clients out in the community. So during day service activities, when they come to the Woodlawn building, oftentimes we take them out in the community, which is done here in Logansport. To rebuttal what was said previously about bringing in people to live here that's outside the community. Will that happen? To be honest, sometimes yes. But we're moving clients from High Street to this location if we're able to build. So there would be probably some new clients coming in. Right now in our community, out of all the people we serve, 2/3 are not being served with intellectual development disabilities. So we could receive a whole lot of folks from Logansport, or they could come from somewhere else. But just like anywhere else, growth is good, I would think. I would not shut the funnel off with growth. Why would anybody, what town would do that? Say, no, don't move here, we don't want to grow. That to me really sounds foolish. And I would say that as far as these clients coming here, we're going to take care of these clients. And when I say take care of them, we are going to be supporting whatever they want to do. If they want to go down there and fish, great. We walk with them to fish because they have to have support people with them. Yes, we have to have staff there. That's what they do. The staffing ratio for a 4-bedroom duplex is 1 staff to 4 clients. And the group home is a little different. Now, I believe when we bring in these staff, when we bring these clients in here, they're going to go into the community and do these things that they enjoy to do. And we encourage them to do that. We don't want to stifle them. However, they are in a setting where they need the supports. That's why they're in there. Some of them live in other places, they don't need as many hours. But these are a 24-hour setting. So we would have staff with them at all times. But that's why the other piece of property there is nice, because they have access to get out and stretch their legs and do things. And if we don't do that, we drive them to where they need to go. And it is part of a federal rule, mandate, to do that. We just don't take them to Woodlawn the whole time and leave them sit there all day long. Many choose to do that. If they want to do that and choose to do that, then we let them. It's their choice. And I'll probably follow up the last, I'm probably forgetting something because there's a lot of